say thank you. Thank you for another day that you have made, oh Lord. We ask, oh Lord, if we just come into this house today, clear our minds and clear our hearts. And we're seeking your guidance, Lord, that we can make our communities better as a partnership to make our lives smoother for all the citizens of Nash, Edgecombe, and Rocky Mountain. We ask this in your name. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen.
Start off by saying good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for coming out. I want to take a special thanks to Chief Moore for coming out, Sheriff Atkinson, Chief Medina from Nash County, and everybody else from the public that's come, and Judge. I just want to talk about pretty much what Document wrote. It's pretty much just trying to do some community development ways you can pretty much go back home to your community and you can pretty much better your community. I think we all need each other to make the community better. It don't only start with us. I think it starts with the police. It starts with every citizen in the community, every leader in the community. And I think we all get together as one. We can turn this whole thing around and make everything work. And what made me pretty much want to do down in the rough, I lost an uncle in 2006 to a murder right here on Carolina Avenue. And after that, at 16, my grandmother had told me at 16 in the room, we was all alone, and she said, son, at 16, this family, the male figure in this family is on your shoulder. So I heard a humble cry for every 16-year-old that don't have a dad around. Even though I had a dad, on my other side of my family, they didn't have it. At 27, I'm the male role model on that side of the family. So pretty much I just want to say, I heard a parent's humble cry of a parent who has lost a child to the street. So it's pretty much now everybody has this and that to say. But I think now we got to get to the root of the problem. We got to work together. We got to fix this thing. And I think right now things like this, we can pretty much make it better than what it is. We can all get on one accord and make this thing happen. So the way we do it tonight is we start off with Chief Moore with a statement, followed by Sheriff Atkinson, and then Chief Medina come. And then a judge, you have anything to say, you can say it. Then we're open to the public for any questions. And I have some feedback from my email from the last event that I did in May. A few questions that I will ask from pretty much anybody in the room, mainly for the figurehead with the law enforcement. So here you go, Sheriff. Here you go, Chief Moore.
Thank you. I'm not going to say much tonight. I'm just going to take a simple poll, give you some factual information. I'm going to sit down because I'm trying to create thought. Most of the and the poll, I really don't need to do the poll because you already know the answer. But sometimes we get together and sometimes we have a sense of denial of the realities of the problem. And we do have a problem in America. It's a severe problem. I just don't think the problem is getting the attention that it should be. But it's a problem that the Center for Disease Control has recognized. The data is on their website. So it's not a James Moore data poll. That's why I'm giving you the name, the Center for Disease Control. If you want to know the exact link, it's cdc.gov, health equity /ICARD/men 2014 native/index.html. But here's the poll, and it's really for my African American audience. I want to ask you a question. How many of you in the audience know of a family member, friend, associate, or family member of a friend or associate that is between 15 and 24 that has died as a result of an overdose? Talking about African Americans. That goes with the national poll. Most of you don't. How many of you know someone between 15 and 24 that's died of asthma, bronchitis, or emphysema? One. What about AIDS, HIV, between 15 and 24? Two. Heart disease, between 15 and 24? One. Cancer, African American male between 15 and 24 that's died of cancer. How many? One. Suicide, African American male between 15 and 24 that you know died of suicide. One again. What about unintentional injuries? That's a class at CDC, but it means accidents, and accidents of people who died in car crashes, falls, burns, drownings, and poisons. How many of you know an African American male between 15 and 24 that's died of an accident? 2, 3. How many of you know of an African American male between 15 and 24 that's died as a result of a homicide? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20. That's our reality. According to the CDC, homicide is the leading cause of death for black males between 15 and 24. Of all the black males that die, on average, between 15 and 24, 48% die of homicide. Of all the black males. The leading cause of death for white males between 15 and 24 is unintentional injuries, accidents. The leading cause of death for Hispanic males between 15 and 24, accidents. The leading cause of death for Native American males between 15 and 24, accidents. The leading cause of death for Asian males between 15 and 24, accidents. But this to show you the disparity, as I stated earlier, according to the CDC, it says around 48% of African American males between 15 and 24 that died as a result of homicide. For white males, it's only 7.5% between 15 and 24 that die of homicide. Hispanic males, it's 19%. Native American males, it's 11.5%. So we know that, and it's no secret, all of us have known this for years. From national news to anybody who's picked up a good magazine, you know this is a true story. Your public health officials talk about this. So we know that the reality is the leading cause of death for black males between 15 and 24 is homicide. And according to the data, that's 48% of the deaths of black males that die between 15 and 24. Now, we also know, and all of us in here know that these black males that died as a result of homicide the majority, did not die from bow and arrows or knives. We know that. So we know that gun violence is a serious issue. The American Medical Association calls gun violence a public health crisis. And it said it requires a comprehensive public health response and solution. But hold on. The American Public Health Association, that's your health departments around the country and the state. The American Public Health Association, and this is from both of their websites, says that gun violence is the leading cause of premature death in the U.S. Guns kill almost 30,000 people and cause 60,000 injuries each year. We must take a public health approach to ensuring our families, our communities are safe. As African American males and families, that's our reality. We can speak on hyperbole about all the other social ills in America. As your own poll proved, we should not allow people to come in our communities to talk about overdoses, asthma, AIDS, heart disease, cancer, suicide, accidents. Why? Don't get me wrong now. As we age, heart disease and cancer comes into play. When we're talking about our young men between 15 and 24, we know empirically, just by this informal poll, but by the CDC data, that the leading cause of death is homicide in America. And our city and our state is in America. That's our reality. In America, we have a gun violence issue. Now, we have conservatives and liberals talking about the gun policy debate. We know that sometimes in North Carolina, because of the conservative legislature, we are not allowed to talk about the gun policy debate in the state, some subsidiaries. But our reality is we have a gun violence issue. Not according to James Moore, but according to the American Medical Association and the American Public Health Association, that's begging for communities and themselves to take a public health approach in treating this like any other disease. I wish that the #1 cause of death for my African American males between 15 and 24 receives just 50% of the attention of the opioid crisis. What if we could get just 50% of the monies for treatment, for analysis, for prevention that's going into the opioid crisis, into our gun violence crisis that's impacting our young black males? What difference could we make if our medical professionals and our public health officials and our legislators said, hey, America, we got a problem. Young black men, their leading cause of death, almost 50% are dying from homicide. What could we do instead of running around talking about excuses? When I say excuses, when you have a disease, when you have any type of disease, you try to get the root cause, right? If people are dying of AIDS, you remember in the 80s when AIDS was epidemic? It was okay if you got AIDS from a blood transfusion, but it wasn't okay into society if you got it from your sexual activity. And then somewhere along the way, we became humans as America, and we said, AIDS and HIV is devastating our communities, our family members. We don't care how they caught it. We just want some research dollars to go in to treatment and prevention. And finally, when we came together as a country to say we want our research dollars to go in treatment and prevention, we did that as America. And now, the mere fact that you get HIV is not a death sentence. We have athletes that we know of, and people that have been living 3-4 decades with this disease. So if we can get our public health officials and our medical officials and our legislators involved in putting some money and interest into the gun violence issue, not looking at it from a gang or a group violence issue. The gang and the group violence issue is asymptomatic of the gun violence issue. Because I tell this story all the time, and it's not reported. People say, what type of gangs do we have in the Rocky Mountain or this region? If I say inner city street gangs, they want to listen. But I said, I can tell you factually that yes, we have traditional street gangs, but also we have outlaw motorcycle gangs in this region. Also, just recently I said, we have white supremacist gangs. But nobody wanted to listen to that because we only wanted to concentrate on you. Think about it. State data tell you that we have a significant outlaw motorcycle gang presence in our region. Data tell you that we have organized groups affiliated with white supremacist activity operating in our region. If you don't believe me, what do you call a caravan of people organized, coming through your community, riding with Confederate flags, yelling out the windows, intimidating residents in our African American neighborhoods? Did that not happen here? Yes. So all of the social ills that you see in society across the diaspora, we have here. And the Attorney General of the United States just made a statement. Who did he say? Which gang did Attorney General Sessions say is the greatest threat to public safety in America? I'm saying it because you can look it up. Attorney General Sessions says MS-13. Primarily a Hispanic gang from Honduras, El Salvador, Central Americans. He called it the greatest threat. So my thing is, and I want to tell this story, stick with the data. Don't let people write your story. Don't let people write your story. Stick with the data. Your data says my black friends and sons are not dying of overdoses. They're not dying of asthma, AIDS, heart disease, cancer, suicide, accident. They're dying from homicide. And the high probability that that homicide is through gun violence. And if the AMA And the American Public Health Association said it's a crisis and we need to treat it like any other public health disease. Why aren't we putting our money there? Why aren't we as communities forcing the hand of our medical and public health officials to treat our problem as a crisis? This is why we at the Rocky Mountain Police Department participate in initiatives like that. We try to educate. One of the things I love, I think education is the most powerful tool for any people, but especially for my people. If I can educate you to give you true facts with information that you can go online and validate. It's not hyperbole, I say this from the hip, I'm making assumptions. Everything I said can be validated. Go to the Center for Disease Control website, look up mortality rates for males, and then you can find a link for by race. I can give you a copy of this. You can look up the American Medical Association and the American Public Health Association. What did they say about gun violence as a public health crisis? These are our realities. This is our problem in America. This is our problem in North Carolina. And this is our problem in our region. Too many of our young black males are dying from gun violence. Thank you.
Thank you, guys, real quick. Thank you for your patience. Real quick, how many guys are just tired right now? Tired of what you've seen? Raise your hand. You're just tired. And sometimes as fathers, guys, raise your hand if your father's in this room. At the end of the day, guys, put your title to the side. We're men and we're fathers. And I know we got mothers in here also, so I'm not excluding you guys. But at the end of the day, before we don on these uniforms, we're fathers and we're men. So sometimes we've got to go back to the basics of just training. I see a lot of you guys faces in here that I've had mentored the last 3 or 4 young men that were gunned down. I knew all of them personally, and I mentored a few of them. So it hits home. We're not immune to the hurt. Are we, guys? And I say this, here's what we got to do as far as working together as a community all the way around. And when we do this every week, man, we train. But when it's broke, guys, what do we got to do? We fix it. That's it. And that's the thought process that we're training down in Edgecombe County. If it's broken, we've got to help fix it. If it's broken, just like the chief just said with the homicides, we've got to help fix the mentoring. We've got to fix it. We can't stand before you guys and keep giving you excuses. We've got to be a part of the solution. So therefore, I'm going to yield to the conversation because I want to hear what people have to say tonight so we can take it back in our conversations down in Tarboro and see how we can help fix our communities. Thank you, Richard. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. This is kind of a second time that DeBoris has put this together, and I think it's a starting point. But we're at a crossroads right now where, yes, we are having a drug epidemic, but that drug epidemic is also causing the violence that we're seeing within the mileage from here. Drugs do not know race, they do not know an age, they do not know a socioeconomic status. What I'm basically saying is, you can have somebody that's in your neighborhood distributing whatever type of drug that they're distributing. They get upset with somebody else, you happen to be in the area, there's a little dispute, bullets have no names. The days of talking about problems, those days are gone. Everybody resorts to violence. We gotta have a dialogue. You gotta have, in the neighborhood, growing up in New York, I didn't have that opportunity to talk to law enforcement. So we gotta break that trend. People should be able to come to us and say, look, I'm having an issue with somebody. Does that work all the time? No, but it's a start. I think if we all come together and identify key people to come talk to and try to hash things out, you know, it's better than having to visit somebody at the grave on Sundays. And I encourage everybody, not just for the Nash County Sheriff's Office or the Edgecombe or Rocky Mountain, we're all here for the same goal. You know, we don't come out and say, you know, let's harass somebody. That's not what we're about. We're trying to make the neighborhood a lot better for your moms, for your aunts, your grandparents, young children walking down the street. They're victims too. You can pick up any newspaper here and see how a lot of these innocent people are generally innocent because of the drama that people have between themselves. And I commend Boris on having this discussion again. I see the crowd's a little bit bigger than the last one. And, you know, we encourage dialogue. You got to talk it out. We had a person come to the community meeting, the school meeting 2 Mondays ago, and he talked about 2 words, conflict resolution. And it sounds technical, but you know what that means? You sit down and you hash your stuff out. Look, man, I got a beef with you because you're talking to a female or something. Talk it out. You know, back in the day, we used to, what? Fist fight. Nowadays, that doesn't exist anymore. You got to have a platform to talk things out, talk issues out, and this is a start. I appreciate you and Chief Moore and Sheriff Atkinson for supporting this.
My name is JKelly. I want to thank Boris for this program, and I want to tell you that I support it 110%. Seriously. And I thank Chief Moore for the statistics. Thank you for your staff. Involvement that you guys and women put into policing Rocky Mount. We thank Sheriff Atkinson and his staff, the men and women, what you do. Obviously, my sheriff, Sheriff Stone, and the Nash County Sheriff's Department. And Mr. Medina, you know, you're my main man, you know that. You know, all those of us in law enforcement and in the court system see the statistics that Chief Moore mentioned every day. We all live it, we breathe it every day. It's a problem, particularly the homicide rate in African American men. And we need to find a solution. I'm here because I recognize this, and I want to be a part of the solution. If I'm not a part of the solution, then I got to be part of the problem. And we need to stop this and figure out a way to stop it. So I'm 110% behind you. Whatever resources that you think I could bring to bear to assist in this, you can count me in. And thank you.
So this part of it, I mean, the public will have anything you want to say, any question you want to ask, you can come down and step forward and ask. Anybody have anything to say, period, in the whole room, you can pretty much ask it now. Pretty much say the spiel.
What's up? Man, first of all, my name is Sonny Battle. I'm just getting out of the feds. Done two sentences. I got a lot of them guys back in Fort Dix, New Jersey, that's coming home. Been locked up over 9 years. And it's a sad sight. When you can look at the paper and read the paper, you losing cousins, you losing friends. I got nephews, I got cousins, there's Bloods, there's Crips. You know, when they come around me, it's no drama. When they get away from me, now it's drama. I done been home probably 3 weeks now. I done been around Bloods, I done been around Crips. I have no problem going around the kids. I'm good. It's not because I'm big or nothing like that. I've been in this city all my life. No one can pull nothing over me in this city. I can go through any neighborhood in this city. I watch these kids grow up. But all I got to say, man, you know, let me just tell you something. When I'm back at Fort Dix, I was about to go home. And I'm no blood, I'm no crip. But I was in second command of running 700 inmates. up on it. You had to listen to what I say. And I got guys that come there that have snitched on told on some of the guys there. And I got to make that call. They got to go to the hole while they get beat down. I got to make that call. Man, that's the hardest call in my life, man. Knowing you got somebody right there you grew up with, and you got to tell him he got to go up because this man over here say you on his paperwork. Man, that's hard, man. But I got to run with 600 some more people. I got to send them up. You know, man, it's sad, but you know, I got to run with these guys. These guys are right. And we every day it bothers me, really bothers me. You know, I look at Rocky Mountain. I remember the days of 92, 89. When I was standing week on Strong Project, we was selling dope. The street was full with fiends and everything. Larry Woodard came through there, Rubbin, Stony Battle, Woodley, James Brown, they came through there. Man, they shut that whole place down. It was over. It was dry. They moved to Madison Street. A year time, that was dry. I'm trying to figure out if they can do the drug game like that. What is going on with this game? This game situation, I ain't pointing no fingers at Edgecombe, Nash, or Rocky Mountain. I ain't going to even point no fingers now. But I'm mad, I'm pissed off. But what these kids need, man, they don't need to be thrown in jail on their first offense and nothing like that. They need some type of program when you can get them and say, you know what? You got 5 months, you got to go in that program. You got to sit these kids down for 5 months and make them think, man. You got to make them think. If you send a kid to make bun, put him a $10,000 bun, and he ain't got no program, he's going right in that jail, moving around, eat commissary, he ain't learning nothing. And the guy's putting stuff in his head, putting BS in his head, he's going to listen to him, he's going right back out, he's in the same thing. But if you got somebody in there, a mentor that's drilling him with something in his head, positive, and he's looking at moves and see the difference from game and understand this, he's going to have a different mind frame. He's going to come out, he's going to be like, nah, I was looking at that, I can't go that way. We don't have no program. Raleigh got programs, Charlotte got programs, Durham got programs, Rocky Mountain, Edgecombe, Nash County do not have no programs for no type of game situation, man. And that's one of the main keys. And I'm about to get off the mic, but I can tell you this. The federal prison, if you don't program, they take 6 months. If you don't go to GED, they say you want to do GED class, you're like, nah, I'm good. I'll say, okay, you know we're going to take good time. Y'all so let me get the paper. She's making you think. You're trying to get home early. So you got to think. You say, I'm going to take the class now. You don't want to lose good time and you're supposed to come out in 2016, but you're coming out in 2017. You say, I'm taking that class. See, you got to have, these kids got to think. We ain't letting these kids think, man. They ain't thinking. You throw them in the jail, they get out there on the same mentality. You got to sit them down for 4 or 90 days. Let somebody mentor this kid. You can't have nobody that's a professor or somebody from Harvard University coming because he ain't been in the project, he ain't been in high school, he ain't been talking about, he don't know no area. You got to have somebody that been through this stuff to get these kids together. If you ain't got that, it ain't even worth it. It ain't worth it, man. You know what I'm saying? Edgecombe County, keep doing a good job. Rocky Mountain, keep doing what y'all doing. Nash County, keep doing what y'all doing. Y'all got to come together at the end, man. One entity can't say it ain't our fault. We can't, man. Y'all got to come together like Voltron, man. Y'all got to come together, man. If y'all don't come together, it's going down. It's going to get even worse, man. You know, when I was in prison, I was still keeping my eyes on Rocky Mountain, and it's bad. Rocky Mountain ranked number 5, Henderson ranked number 6. And gangs in heroin. And you don't want that heroin in your community. I talked to many guys from Baltimore, D.C. It's different. It's different. Cocaine is a drug that they gonna break it. They gonna break in your house. They gonna steal something, and they gone. Heroin, When they get a hold of that, they might kill you because they need that fix. Heroin is serious, man. It's very serious. I ain't never seen so many people in my life down in Wilmington, North Carolina, getting caught with 300, 400, 500 bundles in 2008, getting 40 and 50 years. They would land them down in Wilmington. If we got to do the same thing, lay them down with heroin, that's what we got to do, man. Because that heroin is no joke. It will turn your kids out. Your kids will be so, they'll take 5 years before they get back where they was at. So that's all I got to say, man. Peace.
Anybody else?
How's everybody doing tonight? Like I said, my question is just for law enforcement. I just want to know if the city has a curfew, and if it does, what is it, and are we enforcing it?
Yes, the city of Rocky Mount does have a youth protection orders, a curfew, 11 o'clock weekdays, 12 o'clock on weekends. And we do enforce it, but part of the problem with enforcement on curfews is you work against the grain of criminalizing our children and giving them criminal records. So on one hand, we talk about not criminalizing our children, giving them second chances, and then when we get frustrated, we say, let's arrest them all. So that's the quagmire we in law enforcement are faced with in our city, is trying to have that balance. Do we engage in that, what I would call that 60s, 70s mentality when we panic, or the crack cocaine epidemic? You remember the crack cocaine epidemic? There was so much violence in America that we panicked with those draconian drug laws that were put in place by President Clinton, where young men were caught with just a little bit of crack cocaine and went to jail for a couple of decades, and you could be caught with much more powder cocaine and not get the same sentence. And now we came out, we realized in President Obama's administration, even Charles Rangel is an African-American congressman from New York. He was one of the proponents of the Clinton-era drug laws. There's a documentary where he said, we made a mistake. In fact, how many have seen the documentary 13th? The documentary 13th. It was talking about the prison industrial complex, how we use our laws to criminalize young African Americans, and they get that criminal record early, and it's very difficult for them to overcome it for the rest of their life. So that's the balance. We do have an ordinance, we do try to enforce it, but at the same time, I do not want to arrest every young person for minor violations.
Well, do we necessarily have to arrest them? Isn't there another alternative we can do? Maybe like a fine for the parents?
No, when you say fine for the parents, the ordinance doesn't have fine for the parents. So now you're talking about civil procedure, and that's out of my purview, and I would have to bring the judge to talk about the difference between criminal procedure and civil. The ordinance is written up for criminal. I can't change the ordinance, I'm not a legislator. So when you start, I'm answering your question, and I can't what if it on could we do civil fines for the parents when we don't have that. But the second thing is, in our city, where you have such high poverty, and you look at, if you've ever been in district court in Rocky Mount especially, district court in Rocky Mount, how they do the payment schedule doesn't happen in many places in the state. I think our judges, because of the high poverty and the high unemployment, they really work with people, giving them much more time to make payments and stuff like that. And that goes into another, and I'm not trying to be the philosophical guru, but what I'm just saying is we talk about the prison industrial complex, and also we talk about in North Carolina, this thing called debtor's prison. I know sometimes people say when the chief talks, he's talking over people over the heads. I'm not trying to do that. What I'm saying is there's another phenomenon in North Carolina. It's called the debtor's prison, where we put all of these fines on poor people. They can't afford to pay them. So what happens, the fines build up, then they're incarcerated. While they're incarcerated, they're building payments. So when they get out on probation, on parole, on probation, not only do they have the original fines, they have the bill to pay the state back for the time that they spent in jail. So we really talk about a debtor's prison. I understand your problem, but what I'm saying is there's no easy answer. I cannot give you a very simplistic answer. Don't arrest the children, find the parents. That's not in the ordinance, but I just can't, for me, I just can't give you that easy answer. Right. And I appreciate that. But I think, and I don't know how many parents in here, if your child on Thursday night JV game, if they didn't come back from the curfew and you got a $250 fine, would that hurt? You see, we live in realities, and there's a balance, and that's what I'm trying to do. There's a balance in everything that we do. For every action, there's a reaction. And we in this law enforcement, we have to understand that when we look at our children and our families in this region. And that's why when I sit in district court in Rocky Mount, it's like nowhere else I've ever been. Judges bent over backwards, giving people, a person hadn't paid a fine 2 months ago, they get a failure to appear. Think about it. You didn't pay the fine 2 to 3 months ago, you come back to court on a failure to appear, and the judge still gives you another 30 to 45 days. I've seen that. That doesn't happen many places because they understand our socioeconomic realities. I went a long way around to answer your question, but I hope I'm giving you some understanding of the difficulties of criminalization versus fining people in the criminal justice system.
Good evening. My name is Robert Yarborough. I'm a new pastor here in town at St. Mark African Methodist Episcopal Church over here on 1150 Tarboro Street. I wanted to offer a solution. One of the things that we were dealing with when I pastored in Texas, as the brother that's standing in the back, I forgot your name, but I'm definitely going to need to get it before I leave, was really dealing with re-entry of many of our brothers and sisters into society after imprisonment. And what we were finding in Texas is that over a decade, back in, now I guess in the early 2000s, it was going to be close to 100,000 men that would be released from prison. And there were really no programs to really do anything to help with the recidivism that was going on, where they were going right back to prison. And what we wanted to do here in Rocky Mount, we set up on September the 30th from 9:30 to 3:30. It's called a Reentry Resource Fair. A Reentry Resource Fair. I'm going to try to stand still. And what it deals with is an acronym called HELP. H is for housing. Help these brothers and sisters try to find appropriate housing. There's 3 E's in there. One is around expungement, which has a lot of brand new laws, so we're looking for judges and lawyers to help us to explain that information so that along with the expungement, they can find some employment, particularly with felon-friendly companies. There's a few companies here that in Rocky Mount that we've found that are open to giving folks a second chance at employment. And we're trying to find more resources that way. We really, during the resource fair, actually have some interviews go on so folks can be gainfully employed right there on the spot. And then the last thing is around education. And the brother talked about GED and how to be able to get your high school diploma. And those are some basic things that we're trying to provide resources in and around. Sort of a one-stop shop to help them in that regards. The L is around legal counsel, to try to provide some understanding of what's going on in regards to your case or your parole and what you have to do in that regards. Trying to provide some resources and support to be able to do that. We had a day-to-day dads program, and what we were finding is that They were just having difficulty being able to pay fines. I heard that, having transportation to be able to see the parole officer and get there on a timely basis. So those are the kind of legal counsel that we want to provide. And then lastly, the P is around personal counseling. And I heard some people talking about, conflict resolution, talking to people about how to resolve their issues and their problems and their concerns. So that's on September the 30th at 1150 Tarboro Street, right there at St. Mark. And we invite any and everybody to come. We're not just looking for people to come who are just recently released from prison. One of the startling things that I found out about the roll within our own church, I found about 10 to 15 people on the roll that were sick, that were shut in, people that are in convalescent homes and the hospitals that we would visit, provide communion to. But then I asked a statistic, Chief Moore, I said, how many of you have a child? How many of you have a loved one that is in prison? And when that hand went up, it was double the amount of people that we had written on the roll. And we found that we were focusing our energies and our efforts in the wrong direction. So it is for those of you that may have loved ones that may be coming home soon, or may have loved ones that may not be coming home soon. How do you deal with that? How do you deal with those kids, those parents, those loved ones, that sister, that daughter, that are dealing with those parents that are behind bars? Also, we do need some credible witnesses to speak to these brothers and sisters. So I'm encouraging young people to come as well, to let them know the true stories of what's going on. If you want to visit our online Facebook page, is St. Mark AME Church, Rocky Mount, NC. And we also have online testimonies from people who have come out of prison and are doing great things, doing really big things. And they can provide counsel. And we do teleconferences. Sister that we're in partner with, Tia Titus, does teleconferences about every once a month, all week long, Tuesday through Thursday actually. And they have witnesses come and talk about what they've done from all over the country. We're focused now with these resource fairs up and down the East Coast because that's where we're most familiar. But we want you to come out on September 30th and add whatever resources you can, whatever in-kind donations to help and support these people that are going through. But that's just one of the things, because this thing is so multifaceted in terms of where it touches. We're just trying to do our part in that particular area. Again, Robert Yarbrough, if you want more information, please dial 252-977-0639, and our administrative assistant will give you more information on how to get in contact with myself. Thank you for doing this, my brother.
Chief Moore, Rocky Mount Police Department. I forgot about this. A problem we have in our community is this is why we can't get no crime solved. This is why the whole president of every community, they out of touch with the young people. They 60 and old. They don't know nothing about the internet and nothing. They pass through, they hold on these thrones and try to keep home. A lady told me at North End's church, it was so crazy. My brother Nehemiah was preaching, said we need to take back our streets. And I was behind the lady, and she was about 60-something years old. She said, oh my God, they can kill us if we take back the streets. And I looked at that like, not being funny, you ain't got long enough to live anyway. You know what I'm saying? Jesus died for you in church. He died for you. Why you can't die for these kids out here? You know what I'm saying? But that's the problem that we have in the community. These presidents are too old. They 60 and old. Old. They have no regularity with these kids. They don't know what's going on out here in the community. The gunshot shot, they don't lay in their bed. They ain't getting out of their bed. You need some young blood presidents in the community. You need some guys that's 30 years old, homeowners, to get them jobs now. Because they the ones going to look out their community instead of the old folks. I'm just telling it like it is. We got to replace them with some young people, man. And that's the problem why ain't no crimes being solved in Mellon Grove, Holly Street, and nothing. They too old. And then I'm just saying they need to just wipe that system down, put young people in a position. And that's all I got to say.
While he's coming back, I'm just going to make a couple comments. I've been listening to the conversation, and it's all been good, but my problem is, in a meeting like this, you have so much information being given. Now, when you start at the beginning of the meeting talking about young folk, where the problem is, basically, we don't move past that. Now we're to people getting out of prison. So that's where the conversation going. Now, my problem is, you gotta work on all, and work in all areas. So it sounds like to me, we need sort of like a task force to work on what's happening with the young folk. I think the re-entry program, there's a lot of that going on around here. Brother right here, Naeem Akbar, your clerk of court in Tarboro, and other folk are doing the re-entry thing. I think that's working fine. But my concern is, what can we do about these young folk? The guy asked about the curfew. We see where that's going. But my comment to law enforcement is, you go to a lot of workshops. Is there anything y'all seen across the nation that's working? I mean, I haven't heard of anything, and it might be out there, but I know like with the school system, when I used to be very active in the school system, when they was bringing in new rules, they would go to the conferences, come back. Like for instance, when they went to zero tolerance, when a child got to fighting in school, it didn't matter who started the fight, everybody got suspended. So I know things flow down from up north and it comes here. So again, my comment is, and y'all work in workshops and training across the state, across the nation, have you seen anything that you can bring back to this area that'll help? I know it's a hard question because, like I said, I'm very active and I haven't seen anything. But I do know that you talk about parents, it's a whole different set of parents today. So that's one thing we need to talk about. Like I said on TV last night, you can talk about what parents should be doing, just like you're talking about finding them. Well, all homes don't have a parent. You have a mom and a dad, and even if they're there, what is the community willing to do? My thing is, these meetings like this right here need to go into the community. People need to invite these kind of meetings to the community, sit down and talk about what's going on in your community. People know what's going on in their community, and it's up to you if you want to take over your community and be safe. You know, people they don't want their children to go to jail, but they got to understand that I live in that community, so I need to do what I need to do to stay safe. So you got to have a buy-in. If those parents don't want to buy in or whomever, then something's got to take place, whether they buy in or not. But I want to be safe. But going back to that question about the training and the workshops y'all attend, is there anything out there that can be brought back to this area?
My name is Jeremy Jones. I'm a deputy sheriff at the Edgecombe County Sheriff's Office. Myself and James Silver went to a class on Friday in Elizabeth City talking about Operation Ceasefire, talking about EKG, early kids and guns and whatnot. And actually what the class taught was actually that how we get the young kids, how we get them to, get them in the school system, since they spend most of their time in the school system. We were actually taught in regards to having training classes for the kids. I think it was 2 times a day. I think it was like 2 sessions it was. For the 4th graders, I think it was the 7th graders, right? And what he pretty much explained was that being able to understand and tell their kids that this stuff is real. With every action there's a reaction. And pretty much talking about the consequences of gang violence and also gun violence. And getting those kids to understand that this stuff is real. Like we've already said, there's an issue in Rocky Mountain. In order to address the issue, you got to realize there is an issue. So one thing that Sheriff sent us to, myself and James too, was that class, Operation Ceasefire, taught from Fayetteville PD.
Let's try to answer the question, Mr. Dancy. Today I met with the Edgecombe County School System. one of the things that we have a serious problem is conflict resolution in schools. One of the things I proposed to the Edgecombe County school system this morning was we suspend children for fighting or what have you, and then we don't do any intervention in between there. Then they go right back to fighting. So one of the things I'm proposing to the Edgecombe County school system to try to step in and try to fix it, to perhaps send them to some anger management course before they can go back to school. Somewhere we can try to connect somewhere so that we can work on conflict resolution, because it doesn't stop. And if it don't stop from that standpoint, they had to come speak to one of us before they re-enter the school system, because ultimately, and so many of you have said it before, we don't want to keep filling up jails because we don't know how to sometimes walk away. I know it's a lot of adults in this room, we've learned how to walk away from a whole lot of things that we wanted to fight. Am I right? Adults who sit in the room, but you think about your family, you think about you don't want to go to jail, so we've got to teach our young people that. So that's one thing we're working on. The second thing we're working on is, and I listened to one of the gentlemen talk a few minutes ago. I met with a retired sheriff today who's working with a company. We're going to implement a GED program in Edgecombe, working strictly off iPads in the jail. We understand that if we've got it, we're going to try to do some kind of work with it. This hopefully will get off the ground next month. The part of the iPad program is not like a regular iPad that you guys will have at home. It's protected. It's kind of like baby proof. And what they do, they get points to whereas they can, once they finish a class daily on the iPad, we're working in conjunction, hopefully, with Edgecombe Community College, to where if they're in jail, these to go work towards a credit. So even if they're in jail, this iPad will be linked to Edgecombe County so they can work towards a credit. If we got to work towards rehabilitating them, and also we're going to work towards a fatherhood initiative while they're in jail. But this iPad program, this technology program, it's a pilot program in Greensboro right now in Guilford County. And it's working well with a large city like Greensboro. So we're going to bring it down east to Edgecombe, and hopefully this will be off the ground next month. So there are some things that we're doing that we should talk about more. But it's good to hear you guys. I'm here to listen to you guys, but those are things that's coming out of Edgecombe County that the citizens should know. Thank you.
How's everyone? Wow, this thing's loud. My name is Terry Pitt. I'm the owner of Cool Geeks Computer Repair in Rocky Mount. And I just wanted to show so much love to my young brother, JKelly, for putting this together. I think this is a wonderful thing. I normally play the background and support the community that way. But when I found out that he was doing this, I had to take an opportunity to really come out here.